Hello and welcome. This is the Connectors Edge podcast, and I'm Marian LaSalle, the Chief Connector over here. And I have my co-host here with me today, Ricki McKenna. She's a high-end nutritionist and a chef and a teacher, and she does all kinds of great and wonderful things. She's also, here every week with me on the podcast for the Connectors Business Network, which covers so many different things. And today we have a wonderful guest, and he's going to be introduced to you in just a minute by Ricki. Let me tell you a little bit about our community. So the Connectors Business Network has a book club that's every single Monday at 1 o'clock Central. And whatever your time zone is, you'll have to make the arrangements there. And then every Thursday night at 7:30 Central, we have classes, we have workshops and classes and trainings. And our guest just happens to have one of those trainings. He is known for the biomolecular cause and effect, serious diseases, digging down into it and writing books about it and helping people stay healthy. We also have a past Red and I. We used to speak in Houston together. He would do the health of the business owner, and I would do the health of the business, talking about websites and all that wonderful stuff. There's just so much background here. I doubt if we'll be able to cover it all in 30 minutes, but we're going to try. Another thing that Red is known for is helping people get their written material, their audio and written material from their head into a book or into some kind of container and getting it up on Amazon or wherever they want to do it, on their website, PDFs, all kinds of great and wonderful things. So we also have some classes and workshops. Red is the Authority Lab, which I think is really cool. Entrepreneur Authority Lab, meaning every Thursday night at 7:30, you can come in and see one of our leaders. That's just one. We also have Elise Nelson, who does video marketing. She's a coach specifically for YouTube, but she can talk about any video marketing. Then we have me, which is the Connectors Classroom, and I teach software and different things like that. We also have Chris Severs, who is our book club host, and Suzanne Sherrard, who is the lady who really knocks it out of the park with marketing. So she has Marketing Made Easy. All right, well, that's enough entertainment for today from me. We're going to turn it over to Ricki. So take it away.
Thank you very much, Miss Marian, and welcome everyone wherever you are, and welcome to Red O'Laughlin. Red and I go back a few years because we met actually through Marian, and he and I collaborated. Actually, it was my book, and he helped me get published. So Red and I have had a lovely relationship. He and his wife. Red is very interesting man. I know that he has been a jet pilot, among other things, and I'm going to let him tell you about exactly who he is. And I know that Red has published, I'm not quite sure of the number of books that he's published, and I'm going to let him tell you about his newest book that's about to be published because we want to hear all about it. I am a certified nutritionist. I work with people on their diets and what they actually put into their mouths, and good morning cup of tea. Um, and Red goes inside even more than I do. I, of course, help people with their insides, but Red actually speaks to that and has written several books about health, especially for seniors, the causes, the preventions, and so on. So I'm going to let Red tell you about himself some more. Red, can you start with your newest book and tell us what that's about?
Well, first off, thank you so very much for allowing me to be on your show. I'm so honored and just very, very grateful. So thank you. One other thing that, as Marian was talking at the beginning, we used to also talk on reputation marketing.
Oh, that's right.
I don't think that we talked about that now for a while, but as you were going through the archives of our lives, that little thought kind of popped up. And,
That's right. I
writing a
forgot
book
about
is,
that.
is one thing. And one of the real problems that Ricki and I had was that she had a absolute requirement that the book lay flat on the counter. And that was because she has a cookbook. And so she wanted to have it lay flat. Well, most books don't lay flat. And so we started looking at, well, what if you have a three-ring binder? Okay, what if you have not a binder, not a binder, but what, I can't think,
Spiral.
spiral bound binder. And so we experimented with several. We went out and priced a bunch of them. They just got too expensive. And it ended up that Ricki actually found the secret herself. Uh, I had lent her some of my materials, and she found a place in town that was able to work with her. And so for an economical way of getting her books done the way she wanted, we were able to accomplish that. And I've mentioned that on several other shows. And it's like, oh, I never thought about that.
Hmm.
So, but anyway, I research the human body at the cellular level, chemically and biologically. I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat symptoms, and you'll always be treating symptoms. So that's what I write about. That's what I speak about. I got involved in that when my wife had cancer, breast cancer, about a little over 10 years ago. I was trying to help her with some of the side effects from the chemo that she was going through. And one by one, we were able to at least address something, make her life more livable. But no matter what I did, her fatigue just would not go away. She was taking 1, 2, 3 hour naps a day. And I read this book called The Walls Protocol by Dr. Terry Walls. She's an internist.
Remember that.
And she has four pillars to her program, and one is nutrition, diet that Ricki is involved with. And so, in between her radiation, which her radiologist says her fatigue would probably get worse, and the end of her chemo, we decided to take an extra long break. Doctors didn't like it, but it's one of those things you have to insist on. So I put her on this Walls protocol, and literally within 4 days, literally 48 hours, but 2, 3, 4 days, all her fatigue went away. She was no longer taking naps. She was at least eating something. And it just dawned on me, wow, that was kind of my aha moment with nutrition and health. And so we went through the radiation part of that, months of chemo, but weeks of radiation, and she recovered fine. In fact, the last day of radiation, we left Houston around noontime. She had just finished her treatment. We drove 1,000 miles over the next 2 days to Jacksonville, Florida, and I rented a U-Haul. She followed me again 48 hours after her last radiation treatment, 500 miles a day by herself, right behind me, zero problems. And it just sort of convinced me that nutrition is really a major portion of our life that we don't even think about.
Yes.
So that was a major eye-opening. So I was in more or less in a mode there with Marian where we were looking at businesses and motivation and inspiration and how can we improve. And I switched over into the health and wellness end of things. And as such, I've written a few books in that area, but most of my attention is on longevity and age-related disease. Well, 1 year after she got her clearance, her last, she had her last surgical thing. Her oncologist says she's fine. We went over to Spain, took a military flight, Space A, and we walked 500 miles across Spain in 30 days. Part of the Camino de Santiago. That was her Thanksgiving tour for her full recovery from cancer. So the nutrition end of things is super critical. I wrote a book called Longevity Secrets for Healthy Aging, How to Live to 100 Years of Age with the Body of a Healthy 50-year-old and the Mind of a 25-year-old. Well, the mind of a 25-year-old is pretty easy because that's about how old our brains grow. It doesn't get any older than about 24, 25, 26. So that was a no-brainer. But the other part, keeping your heart healthy and keeping your body healthy, is more difficult. And I wrote that about 10 years ago. And since then, in my quest to figure out more and more about aging, I've come across this thing called the hallmarks of aging and the hallmarks of health. And these are essentially things that say this causes this. And as best you can have a cause, because sometimes it's really difficult to define a cause, but I
Mhm.
took those things, I talked about them on my TV shows. And then there's also another series on the pathways of disease, and each disease has a slightly different one, but the first 5 or 6 are all generally the same. They all start at the cellular level and they grow up, and then finally they bump into some organ, whether it's the liver or the brain or the heart or the kidney or whatever, and then they have a new life and then they develop into something. And so I decided literally about 6 months ago that I really need to have a new updated book on my longevity secrets for healthy aging, and I'm calling it Aging Sucks.
That's good title.
And I'm still working on the subtitle and the cover, but Aging Sucks really is going to be a compilation of what are the hallmarks of aging, what are the hallmarks of health, and how I can not go down any of the pathways of disease. And those are actually fairly easy things to do. There's nothing in there that's difficult, but it's one of those things that most of us have no concept of because it's never been taught. We don't know anything about it. Whatever's out there, you're getting little bits and slices and pieces. And so I'm trying this time to say, okay, let's take a look at this thing from a systems perspective. I have a system that works. If I am really healthy and I'm fighting things like right now, I'm fighting influenza A, just got back from a cruise. And I have my body's ability, my immune system to respond. Well, if my ability to respond is better than my ability to decay or take abuse from some kind of uh,
Invade.
bacteria or virus or whatever. So in other words, it's basically a balance between the ability to respond to something. So I have a built-in decay over my lifetime. I have a built-in response over my lifetime. And so if I can build up my response mechanisms and fight the normal decay of aging, well, then I would probably end up living a lot longer, a lot healthier. And so that's what I'm focusing on is how can I take and keep our ability to respond to these little insults that come, these little traumas that happen in our daily lives, and provide some value to my audience that they can take to the bank, take to their doctor, and use to improve their health. So that's my current focus. And I also have a series of webinars. I've never done webinars before for profit. Uh, but I'll be doing a series of webinars going into the details. So as if I keep my book at the, say between the 5,000 and the 30,000 foot level, this is what's going on. But if you want to get into the details of what do I do at ground zero, then my webinars are this is how you yourself, Ricki, Marian, anybody can start doing it. So that's my additional plan. And sometime between now and summer, when I release my book, I'll be coming out with a series of webinars that I'll be taking what's in the book and talking about how you can implement that into your life today, especially if you have some kind of problem and you need to talk to your doctor about it. I'll give you that information to talk to him or her.
Great. God, that's beautiful, Red. Thank you. I have a couple of questions because I'm, as you know, I'm a believer in preventive medicine, and to me, that seems to be what you're talking about under a different, whatever title you want to give it. But I feel as though it's time that, from what I can see in the media and the people who I read and the references that I use, that is, we are trending toward that as a prevention because of all the things that have come up that are supposed to be chronic that are frankly caused by, I think, two things. Number one, inflammation throughout the body, anywhere in the body, and also the idea of what the heck are you stuffing into your face? And the stuffing into your face, there's so much prepackaged and preserved food that doesn't do anything to preserve the body. In fact, it's the other way around. It helps it in the decay phase, if you want to call it that. Can you speak more to that? Because to me, preventive medicine, you can call it what you want, but it's all about what's called. Do you address epigenetics as far as that goes? As far as what's going on around you and what you put into and on your body.
Absolutely. Well, epigenetics is probably a term most people aren't aware of.
Right.
We're familiar with our genes. We have a genetic code. We hear about we may have a gene for breast cancer or colon cancer or Alzheimer's or something like that. But in fact, a gene can be turned on or turned off, just like a light switch.
Right.
And your daily choices of your diet, your exercise, your stress management, your sleep, and other factors all are part of what they call an epigenetic function in your life. You can actually have a predisposition for breast cancer, but by living a certain healthy lifestyle, you'll never allow that gene to be turned on. And so that's what you're talking about epigenetic. So those are things that are in there. And as we're looking at our uh, food sources in 1976, I think is the banner year that ultra processed foods was created. And that's generally the year that most people associate with obesity becoming a major problem worldwide.
Mm.
So when you start looking at food and its impact on the body, that becomes a major issue. So whether it's the toxins from the personal care products that you're putting on your skin, and now with nanotechnology, it goes through the skin at lightning speed. We end up with all sorts of things that could create problems in the body. Now,
May I,
inflammation,
may I, may I interject here real quick?
absolutely.
So just yesterday, I was watching a TikTok and it showed the stats on what people weighed and what they looked like in 1970 versus 2025. They,
Oh, I'd like to see that.
oh my goodness. I was so shocked. I mean, people weren't, there was only like 14% of the American population that were considered obese at that point. And so I'm thinking that's okay. If people really understood that it's all the stuff that you're putting in your face, that's a good book title, by the way, Ricki. What are you shoving in your face? I can see that.
Yeah,
Um, we're waking up, I think. We're starting to wake up. And it's
hope
people
so.
like you, Red, and people like you, Ricki, who are helping us understand that it's up to us, okay? Yes, we were bamboozled, we were trained, we were brainwashed, whatever, by breaking the fast with cereal in the morning. I mean, that was, anyway, it's up to us now to correct it. And so thank you. I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you for both of you for really focusing on getting us healthy.
Well,
Now, take a look at breakfast. You hear the expression, the most important meal of the day is your breakfast. Well, in reality, that's a Western concept
Right.
because Eastern philosophy says we don't care whether you have breakfast or not, it's not that important. In their concept, the noon meal is the most important, and you have your biggest meal at noon, and then you have a light meal later on. But in American culture, we have a big meal at breakfast. We, go out and stuff ourselves. We have snacks. We have, a big meal at dinner, and sometimes that dinner is pretty late at night. And then before you know it, now you're trying to get to sleep. And one of the factors in trying to keep you healthy is quality sleep. And so if you're eating and drinking late at night, you're not setting your body up in order to sleep, which when during that sleep cycle, that's when your body repairs itself. And so when you have repairs that must be done daily, that doesn't happen. Another problem that happens is that the way we eat is by more habit. In other words, you get up in the morning, you have that cup of coffee because you've always had a cup of coffee for the last 60 years. That's just the way our body, our brains, I have to have that. Well, maybe you're just dehydrated and you need water. And
first,
and all of a sudden now you start questioning yourself, well, do I really need that? Well, maybe if I change and just have water first and see, am I still hungry for that coffee? 30 minutes later, if I am, great, have it. But are you really hungry for that cereal? Maybe not. Maybe you're just dehydrated. So there's a lot of things in there that we take because of commercials, but we also have our daily habits that we've adopted. And now I fast 72 hours every month minimum. Sometimes it goes 100, 200 hours, but that's just something I got involved with years ago. And Dr. What Baldo, I can't think of his name right now, Walter Longo,
Yes.
Southern California, I believe. He was talking about rebuilding your immune system every 72 hours because when you enter a fast at about 16, 18 hours, you enter into a process called autophagy. And autophagy is where your body starts self-cleaning. I equate it visually to driving a trash truck down your blood vessels, and it stops and knocks on the door of every cell and it says, "Give me your trash." And
Oh
you
my
trash
goodness,
all
that's
dumps all the trash into the trash truck.
It's a
okay.
good picture.
The
Uh-huh.
next truck that comes up is the recycle truck and it stops at the same cells and says, "Give me all your stuff that's not working." And the cell dumps all that stuff out. The recycler does what it does or finds new parts and gives it back
You
to the
could make a
cell.
cartoon and kids would
Oh,
love
that was
that.
beautiful.
And
Yeah.
so you end up over a period of time, it starts at about 18 hours and at 72 hours, you're at 100% autophagy. And so you're going through this thing and you're literally at about 70 some hours. Your body is literally every cell has been cleansed back to state zero. In other words, your immune system is now rebuilt from ground zero. So those are things that we don't know about because we're never taught. So if I encompass a fast, well, whether it's a 20-hour fast, 30-hour fast, periodically into my normal monthly eating programs,
Yeah.
I can improve. Well, I do a 72 because that's what I want. Well, they've also found that 120-hour fast rebuilds a lot of your pancreas and your beta cells, which affects your insulin response and some other things there too. So you have two different factors going on. You have autophagy, which cleanses, but you also need your body to build and grow. And there's another system called mTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin. And so you have two competing things. So you can't be 100% mTOR, you can't be 100% uh, autophagy, because of autophagy, you die of starvation. But the mTOR also has, it has its benefits, but you can't stay in that state forever either. So
Right.
there's a lot of balancing that goes on. And so there's things we need to be aware of. Okay, fine. I'd love to have some ice cream right now. I don't need a half a pint. Maybe all I need is 2 tablespoons, and I'm happy. That's all I need is just the taste in my mouth in order to just to meet that need. But if I put
You
those extra
watching me
four,
last night?
uh,
That's such a
but we
good
have
idea.
but we have needs. But sometimes our bodies, because of habit, those extra 3 or 4 tablespoons are actually they add on. No, they don't. They
No, they were teaspoons.
but are things we get in our habit. We have our comfort space, and we just like to slather ourselves in comfort, whatever that comfort food may be. It may be, to me, it might be a cheeseburger. To everybody, it's a little bit different. Mashed potatoes, gravy, and doesn't matter. But we all have our comfort areas, and sometimes our comfort areas are asparagus and some other things that really do benefit. But most of us don't have healthy comfort areas to live in. So as we're looking at what do we do,
Ooh, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I had a thought. No, go ahead.
I'll entertain your thought.
Well, okay. Um, when I started changing the way I eat, which was many years ago, I started adding a lot of greens. And when I moved to the South from New York, I found there were a lot more greens that I didn't know about, especially something like mustard greens. And I happen to love mustard greens now. But I found that if I didn't eat at least a salad per day with anything in it, I mean, not just lettuce, but I'm talking mustard greens, kale, Swiss chard, anything like that, I was craving greens, which is not a bad thing. And you can add greens to anything that you're cooking in many ways. I made a pot of what I call chicken lollipops last night. They're chicken legs where they've taken the bottom off and they look like a little lollipop, the big parts on top. And I made a whole stew with a whole bunch of vegetables in there. And that was comfort food because I plopped it on top of what do you call it? The cornmeal, polenta. So it ended up as a comfort food dish. But what I find is when you change the way that you're eating, when you change and you add things like more greens to your diet, which are excellent for blood flow, your body wants those instead of the stuff that comes out of packages that are full of preservatives and chemicals and whatever. The fresh stuff, if you start to change your body, it will tend toward that. It's like teaching children how to eat. If you start them out with good food, fresh food, vegetables, fruits, they will want those. The body wants them, and you'll crave those rather than something like, a bowl of mac and cheese.
It comes down to time. Yeah.
Partially.
Do you have time to make a stew? Versus
Yes.
do you have time to open a package and throw it in the microwave? That's what it boils down to. How much time do you have? And then how important is it to you? If it's not that important that you can stick it in the microwave and you'll be eating dinner in 5 minutes, great. But sometimes we don't always have those luxuries. I stopped by Whataburger on the way home. Okay, that takes care of that immediate need. I don't need to go home and get out a bunch of stuff, do some prep, cook it, clean it up. I mean, it's just not the matter of the 5 minutes of cooking. It's
Hmm.
15 minutes of prep. It's a 10 minutes of cleanup. It's a lot of other things that are in there too. Not to mention the planning that you have to do in order to say, what am I going to have this week? So there's a lot of factors that go into that one little meal that are not there. Now, I mentioned the Walls Protocol earlier.
Yeah,
Well,
good one.
Walls Protocol talks about four factors. I'm only going to talk about one of them right now because it's important to our discussion, and that's the diet. In that, Dr. Terry Walls talks about uh, leafy green vegetables. 1 cup of leafy green vegetables a day. When I started out, I didn't eat leafy green vegetables. Maybe iceberg lettuce once a month or something like that. Maybe if it happened to be served to me and I felt like I was disrespectful to somebody not to eat it. So that was a major shock to my body. But I eventually was up to 6 or 7 different kinds of leafy green vegetables that I would put into a salad. Okay, then it was colored fruits and vegetables. And
Yep.
so now the color had to go all the way through, like a blueberry, not an eggplant. So the color had to go through the entire fruit or vegetable in order to be in there. And so that was again, 1 fruit, 1 cup of that. Uh, then you had the sulfur-laden vegetables. Now it's your cruciferous vegetables, uh, the mushrooms, onions, garlic, and stuff like that.
Broccoli.
And again, now you had a half a cup of that and 3 to 4 ounces of a very high quality protein, organic protein. And that's what Marilyn and I started out. She wanted us, Dr. Terry wanted us to have 3 of those kinds of meals a day. We
Good.
could use a meal and a half, just impossible. And so we pretty much settled on 1 meal a day, a cup, basically a meal and a half of that 1 meal a day. And that kind of changed us the way we did things. But yes, it does take time to get all those stuff, to prep it, to put it together. Now, the one thing I changed based on other research that I did was change your protein every 48 hours. Do not have the same protein. So
Right.
today I have salmon and shrimp. Tomorrow I'll have beef and turkey or something. And so you just rotate your protein every 48 hours. And so that's what I did, and that's what we saw remarkable changes in my wife's fatigue from drugs and everything else that was going on. So for those people who are interested, the Walls is spelled WAHLS, the Walls Protocol. I would strongly recommend that as a source. But there are other things in there dealing with stress and exercise and other things. But from a dietary perspective that we're talking about today, and exercise is very important.
Yep. Take a
Really,
hike.
truly is. In fact, I was yesterday, I had a kind of a mental dilemma and I need to do some research on it for myself. I was thinking to myself, okay, exercise gets the blood, the oxygen to the brain. It starts,
Yep.
That's that's
Exercise is a big part of the whole program. And if it gets your blood flowing not only to your brain, but all through your body,
growing.
helps those nutrients to
well,
create.
it also, I'm a firm believer that the real healthy part of our body is our mitochondria. That's the inside our cells that provide our energy. Well, if you're exercising, you actually create new mitochondria. And if you're feeding your mitochondria, you need to feed it correctly, but you also need to feed your brain and everything. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm on this drug for a heart issue caused by Agent Orange from years ago in Vietnam. And the part of this pill that I'm on limits my ability to have a high pulse rate. So I'm sitting now down in the 40s most of the time, where I used to be a little higher than that, 60s. And so I'm not getting the blood flow to my brain that I used to get. And if I start to pick up my pace, all of a sudden my heart says, no, slow down, slow down. And so I got a fight internal that I want to do something. I can't do it. I got to sit down and rest for a minute. Then I get back up and I can go a little bit further. And that was a major problem trying to get on that boat in Miami. That's a long damn walk from where you get off the taxi to you get to your stateroom. That was that
Uh-huh.
was yeah, that was major anyway. But usually I'm not faced with that, you know, mile and a half of trekking just to get to where I need to be. But sometimes that happens. So I'm thinking to myself, is that really and truly, the best thing for me to be doing? Is there some other option I have? Because if I'm not getting the blood flow, maybe this improving my heart is going to cause my brain to have a problem down the road. So again, that's just my way I think. So it's something I need to address. But in reality, when we look at our daily habits, when I look at the hallmarks of health, our daily habits control almost every single one of them. And I'm talking about our lifestyle choices. When I look at the hallmarks of disease, of aging, again, our daily life choices are really and truly, and nearly 100% have some impact one way, shape, or form on each one of those aspects of aging. And the same thing you talked earlier, Ricki, about inflammation. Yeah, inflammation, free radical damage from just normal breathing, our thinking, our exercise, everything our body does generates waste. And when that waste comes in the form of free radicals, it's in there just for grabbing different kinds of electrons to stabilize. So we have a stabilization process causing instabilization. And so as you're eating, those blueberries and the kale and other things that provide extra antioxidants to our body that provides the ability to stabilize this tsunami of inflammation, then if that tsunami, if it's not, quelched in time, becomes oxidative stress. That's when you start really having problems with DNA mutations and other things that create a problem. Literally, almost every single disease in the body is created at the cellular level by chronic low-level inflammation, cellular inflammation. You can control that by your diet most of the time. Our immune system controls most of it. It repairs that 24/7 daily DNA uh, insult that's happening, the trauma that just every day things are bumping into your DNA and causing things to happen. Well, the immune system gets in there and fixes it. But most of us don't realize that our gut, 80% of our gut is our immune system. If we're not treating our gut properly, we're not keeping it balanced and stable with the right kinds of things, then that immune system is going to be working overtime on stuff that it doesn't have to be working on. Then you have people who are challenged also on top of that because they have sensitivities to food, or they have uh, other issues with
Allergies.
allergies, and uh, there's just a lot of things with foods that we don't think about. Now, many times we end up eating a food and it has preservatives on it, or it has some other
Yeah.
kind of uh, chemical, to make it look nicer, look prettier, look taste better. And we add things to our foods that make, when you put that really nice teaspoon of ice cream in your mouth, and it's just so sensual. It just, the
Oh,
texture is,
stop it.
All right, Red, that's enough.
That's enough of that.
Making me feel guilty.
It's early in the morning. I want ice cream. That's just terrible.
but,
Okay.
but those are chemicals that are made to do exactly what you're feeling. That is an additive, and it's there for a reason. And so that is there because now you can go back for that second one, that commercial, but you can't eat just one chip. And that's part of that reason, is because those chemicals are there and they taste so good. I have to
Yeah.
have another. and I
Yeah.
have to have another.
Sugar.
It's interesting. As soon as that whole bag is gone or that ice cream is gone, that need disappears quickly.
Very quickly.
It doesn't disappear when you have a bowl of ice cream. It disappears after the ice cream's gone.
That's right.
And so maybe part of the problem is portion control. You only put into
Yes.
Yes.
smaller bowl and
Little
only half
bowls.
of what you need. And that becomes
Smaller
your
plates.
control of what you're having right there. Or when you take the chips out of that bag and you put them on your, plate with your hamburger or hot dog, maybe you don't take a whole handful. You only take a little pinch full because that's all you need. But
Right.
you're telling your brain, I'm in control now, not you.
Right.
Maybe substitute a salad for the trips.
Uh, we don't
See,
go that
no,
far. We
no,
can't go that far. That's too
no.
big a leap.
That's right.
That's a bridge too
Forget it.
far.
I like red suede instead of
But the
that.
thing
Yeah.
is, you start working yourself in that direction. It's incremental changes, from a big handful to a
Yeah.
pinch to nothing. Okay, I'm not going to have the chips today. Okay, well, what can I have with my burger? Okay, maybe I don't need the bread. Maybe I'm just going to cut it and have it without bread today.
That's
I
Okay,
one
had
way.
now
broccoli
maybe
with mine the other
now
day.
now
Ooh,
maybe I need that salad to
Broccoli.
go with my burger because now I'm starting to substitute and find out
Okay.
what I can in fact have. So
mhm.
those are things that we grow into. We don't just do because Red says do it. No, that doesn't work because
Sure.
I have one I'll keep it short. It's a story that I think everyone needs to hear. And this tells it exactly as you guys have described it. So I have rheumatoid arthritis and palindromic rheumatoidism. Sounds big and weird. And it was awful, okay? Trying to figure out, why I have it, what caused it, how to keep it from flaring up, all the stuff, okay? And they put me on some medications called mexatrethate. Well, they had me at the highest level, and I was still having big flare-ups, and it was causing me all kinds of problems. So my rheumatologist, that's probably not how you say it,
Yeah.
the doctor that deals with that, she says, "Oh well, I'm sorry to say, but now you have to go on infusions, and
Oh,
and don't think that you can go off your mexatrethate. You're going to have to do both of them for the rest of your life." And I saw Red's face, I swear, and I said, "Really?" I didn't say anything at the time, but when I got in the car, I was like, "Really? I'm going to show her that
good.
food, okay, is going to change all that." So sure enough, I worked with Ricki and I listened to what Red has been telling me all these years, and I changed not 100%, but I'd say at least 50% of how I was eating, when I was eating. I went on the fast. I'm doing the what is it, the
Intermittent.
6-14, or I forget I don't start eating until like 2 o'clock, and I'm done by 6 hours later. I'm done. Anyway, just those small changes. I haven't had a flare up since. I don't have to have the infusions, and I have dropped my own mexatrethate down a little bit, just a little bit, just to see if I, could handle it. And sure enough, like it's been probably 4 months since I've even had a flare up. So thank you to both of you for, like, you just keep repeating this stuff to me, because it doesn't happen overnight. You don't choose broccoli instead of French fries, the first day out. So I appreciate it. I know we're out of time, and it really disturbs me, but promise us you'll come back, Red.
Exactly.
And
Red. Yeah, we got to have you back on.
well,
when's your book coming?
let me add one real thing. Your issue there. When
Yes.
you have a significant emotional event in your life, whether somebody dies, near accident, whatever. Dr. Morris Massey is a psychologist, I guess. But anyway, he coined this term significant emotional event decades ago. And so that's when we make a decision ourselves to change instantly. And whether that change is 100% change or not, something happens around us, to us, in us, and that begins a new part of our life. Most people don't experience that. Marian, you apparently did to a level. So that's kind of what happened to you as I hear it. But yes, I would love to come back. I enjoyed these kinds of conversations. And I appreciate again the invite, and I look forward to our next conversation.
You can see Red again on March 19th at 7:30 Central. He'll be back with the Authority Lab and teaching us different things. And you know what? Ricki is in charge of scheduling everybody to be on our podcast. So you can better believe she's going to be calling you very soon to get you back on here because this is really important. And I want to know when your book is due. I know it's not an exact science.
I've said summer. I'm shooting for right now June for at
Okay.
least a plan. I have not actually started the fingers on the keyboard. I'm still doing my research, but I
Okay.
want to be able to this summer have the book out and to start my webinars in about the same time the book is coming out. So I'm shooting for June. I got disrupted here for a week. We'll make that up pretty easily. So
Aging sucks. I
Have
can't
a
wait
launch
to read it.
party. We need to have a launch party.
okay, I'm looking
Oh, good
forward to it.
idea.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to be there.
Yeah, we're part of your team, that's for sure.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank
And
you again very, very much. I really, truly
oh,
appreciate it.
thank you so much. Every time you and I get together somehow, we speak, and I hear you speak, I learn something. And I'm forever researching things and studying things, but Red has a different angle, a different approach than most people that is really quite um, practical, frankly. And if you heed his advice, you'll feel a heck of a lot better. He's also a darn good cook, as well as he does practice what he preaches. So, whatever you've heard today, if you heard something, one little nugget that you want to comment on, please comment below. Let us know you were here. Let us know how you feel about it. And stay tuned for more goodies from the Connector's Edge and more people who can really help you live a beautiful life, healthy life, full life that is just lots of fun. I'm up for fun. And I thank you all for being here and look forward to seeing you again on the next Connector's Edge podcast.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye for now.